Hello, and greetings, lovely person. This is my Redux/redo version of my walkthrough and review of the D&D I10 module. I hope my voice will sound a lot better in this version when compared to my previous version.
The Master of Gryphon Hill bids you welcome and hopes that you have a pleasant stay. Please forgive him if he does not greet you, for he is rather involved in a little experiment at the moment. No doubt he will call upon you when your services are required.
Hello, and greetings to all you fans of RPGs and of Dungeons & Dragons. This is RPGmodsFan, and in this video I will be reviewing and discussing the Dungeons & Dragons module I10 Ravenloft 2, The House on Gryphon Hill, which was published by TSR in September of 1986. It describes itself as an adventure of romance and dark mystery. Tracy and Laura Hickman are promptly featured as the authors of this module. However, according to Shannon Apalcline, a freelance editor from time to time for Wizards of the Coast, the Hickmans wrote an outline to Ravenloft 2. David Cook, Jeff Grubb, Harold Johnson, and Douglas Niles took the outline and they developed and wrote this module. This module was meant for player characters between the levels of 8 to 10. This module was written for AD&D 1st edition rules. The Dungeon Master will need to do some work to convert it to 5th edition rules. It is meant as a sequel to the iconic I6 Ravenloft Module. The I6 module was like lightning in a bottle. Unfortunately, the I10 module is pale in comparison to the I6 module. By the way, I have already done a video review of the I6 Ravenloft module, which can be found on my channel. My short assessment of this module is as follows. This module would make a great novel, but as a D&D module, it is too complicated. Players who are the hack and slash types and are not into solving mysteries, playing nice, and or are not into role-playing will probably not enjoy this module. The module's story takes place in the seaside coast town of Mordentshire. The land surrounding Mordentshire is a grey and bleak waste of hills of rolling heather, jagged cliffs, dark woods, and dank moors. During spring and summer, the countryside can be pleasant. But now, in the dying month of October, it is the treacherous blackness of the moors that predominates. At the time of publication, Mordentshire was not placed in any D&D campaign setting. However, later on, it was placed in the Ravenloft campaign setting. As with many D&D adventures, this module starts at an inn. In this module, it is the Windward Inn. The adventure starts with the player characters recovering from a raging fever. A year ago, a handsome, bright-complexioned, fair-haired newcomer named Strahd von Zorovich came to Mordentshire. For his residence, he bought the Gryphon Hill mansion. By trade, he is an alchemist and sage. The alchemist Strahd won the love of Lady Virginia Weathermaid, and they are to wed. Lord Byron Weathermaid, the father of Lady Virginia, wants the alchemist Strahd to be investigated. Through his contacts in a nearby city, the player characters were hired for such a purpose. His reason is more of concern for his daughter than it is of any suspicions. When the player characters reached the town, they all of a sudden became ill and delirious. When they recover, they are invited to Heather House to meet with Lord Byron Weathermaid. So far, I have discussed the initial setup of the module. Next, I will discuss the initial scene for the player characters, which can be considered a minor spoiler. Then I will discuss the module itself, which, of course, will contain major spoilers. If the player characters were TPK'd in the I6 Ravenloft module, they wake up in Mordentshire and wonder if the events in Ravenloft were a dream/nightmare. If they were not TPK'd in the I6 module, then the I10 module says to retcon the events of the Ravenloft module, such as their items used to destroy Strahd did not work, and have them TPK'd anyway. If the player characters did not go through the I6 module, then the I10 adventure starts with them in an inescapable room, confronting the vampire Strahd and two banshees. Player characters, roll for initiative. Due to their fever and delirium, to the people of Mordentshire, it seems the player characters were attacking phantoms. Their weapons, armor, and gear were taken away. But they can recover their items by visiting various shops and smiths around town, where they were taken to be polished and repaired. At the inn, when the player characters decide to go downstairs, they will see a gentleman who shouts out to them and greets them. He is Dr. Germain d'Honneur, the resident physician of the Salbridge Sanitarium, as well as a mesmerist. He has been attending to the player characters during their 3-day sickness. It is at this point the railroading of the module ceases. I will now be discussing the module itself, and this video will contain spoilers. Unless you are a dungeon master who will be running this module for their players, or are a player who already played through this module and are watching this video for nostalgia purposes, I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video. Essentially, Ravenloft 2, The House on Gryphon Hill, is a variation of Robert Louis Stevenson's story, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where the alchemist and sage Strahd von Zarovich is Dr. Jekyll, often referred to simply as the alchemist, and the vampire Count Strahd von Zarovich is Mr. Hyde, often referred to as the creature. In the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, Dr. Jekyll concocted and drank a potion in an attempt to rid himself of his evil half. But instead, it split his soul into 2 pieces, occupying the same body. In the I10 module, the alchemist Strahd constructed and used a mammoth mystical contraption called the apparatus. Just as Dr. Jekyll was trying to rid of his evil half, so too was the alchemist. The apparatus did bifurcate Strahd into two, one being his better half and the other being his evil half. However, his evil half can A. inhabit the same body as the alchemist, just as in the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, or B. inhabit the body of an important non-player character, or C. be a completely corporeal and separate being. Whichever is the case, the evil half, aka the creature, will be active only at night. In the case where the creature is not corporeal, I will now go over the 4 possible NPCs that may host the creature in their bodies. Strahd von Zarovich is an alchemist and sage. He is intelligent, polite, and of somber temperament, but usually keeps to himself. He arrived in Mordentshire about a year ago. He is elusive about his past and where he comes from. On arriving in Mordentshire, he purchased the old Gryphon Hill mansion. Several weeks passed before Lord Weathermay extended an invitation to Strahd for dinner. It was at that dinner that Strahd first met Lady Weathermay, the daughter of Lord Weathermay. Soon afterwards, Strahd courted Lady Weathermay. In the meantime, at Gryphon Hill, he was hard at work on his experiments and on constructing the apparatus. He does not like to talk about his work in detail. A couple of months ago, Strahd proposed marriage to Lady Weathermay, and they are now engaged. A month ago, when he used the apparatus, he was expecting his darker side to be vanquished. However, something went wrong. He fled Gryphon Hill in terror to Heatherhouse, which is the home of the Weathermays. He does not recall what happened or why he feels fear, terror, and dread about Gryphon Hill. I smell a trope here, called the amnesia plot device. Byron Weathermay is the ruling lord over the lands of Mordentshire. However, he has appointed Melvin Heatherby as the mayor of Mordentshire, and leaves all the ruling matters to him. The Weathermay line was founded over 400 years ago. As a result of an accident hunting boar, he is confined to a wheelchair. He very much likes the alchemist Strahd, but does not trust him 100%. He will want the player characters to go and investigate the Gryphon Hill mansion. Lord Byron is a widow. He lost his wife a decade ago and has lost his passion for life. Well, not exactly true. He loves his daughter, and she is his remaining greatest passion. Virginia Weathermay is the only child of Lord Byron Weathermay. She is devoted to her father and oversees the day-to-day operations of their estate. She loves reading books. Her attraction to the alchemist Strahd started while they were discussing classical literature, and soon afterwards a romance blossomed. She accepted Strahd's marriage proposal. Yet, she does not know everything about him, such as the nature of his work, nor of the apparatus. The 4th possible host for the creature Strahd's evil spirit/soul is Mistress Ardent. Mistress Ardent is Lady Weathermay's personal handmaiden and was her childhood playmate. She was left at the doorsteps of Heatherhouse as a baby. She does not trust the alchemist. she thinks he is too pleasant to be real, and that he is hiding some dark secret. As mentioned before, the adventure takes place in the lands of Mordentshire. The objective for the player characters is to find and destroy the vampire Strahd and to rescue those who have fallen under the control of evil. The important locations of Mordentshire are as follows. The Windward Inn, where the player characters start the adventure from. Heather House, which is the residence of the Weathermaze. The Mausoleum, which is part of the Heather House grounds. The Griffin Hill Mansion, the now abandoned home of the alchemist, and the place Lord Byron wants the party to go investigate. The ruined Church of Mordentshire, and the Sawbridge Sanitarium, where Dr. Germain can usually be found. From time to time, the player characters will suffer episodes of delirium. These episodes are usually triggered by entering certain locations. The townspeople are already wary of the player characters. They will be even more so if they witness any future episodes of delirium. These delirium episodes is done as a plot device for linking the I10 module with the I6 Ravenloft module. The adventure takes place over 5 days and nights. If after 5 days the evil that is haunting Mordentshire is not dealt with, then angry townspeople will gather into a mob. The player characters will get blamed for the town's ills, and then the mob will hunt down the player characters. Not only does the I10 module expect the Dungeon Master to keep track of time, but also expects the DM to keep track of the weather. There are other things that this module expects the DM to keep track of. On top of time and weather, for a Dungeon Master, this is too much. The creature is now in possession of the apparatus and has moved it to a different location. The apparatus can split a soul or unite souls. However, these functions require the Rod of Restinon, which the creature does not have. The apparatus is also capable of exchanging souls between two subjects, and does not need the rod for this function. A process referred to as conversion, and also as transpossession in the module. The creature Strahd has been taking townspeople and transposing them with evil creatures, such as gargoyles, wights, wraiths, and others. Warning: rant ahead. In order to force links with the original I6 Ravenloft module, this module breaks many D&D canon facts. Undead are supposed to be soulless, but Vampire Strahd does have a soul. This is done for a MacGuffin reason as to why Strahd can be in this module, as well as having the souls of the alchemist and the creature linked. Again, the undead are supposed to be soulless, yet in this module the souls of the undead can be exchanged with the souls of the townspeople. Okay, rant over, for now at least. In total, there are 52 townspeople and 52 creatures that can undergo the conversion. The module recommends using a deck of playing cards to determine who gets transposed/converted. As an aside, Mordentshire definitely has a population of more than 52 people. At the start of the adventure, 4 townspeople have already been converted. As time goes by, more and more townspeople will be converted, which the Dungeon Master is expected to keep track of. The module has a huge sheet to keep track of this transposition process. Displayed on the screen is half of that sheet. Displayed on the screen is the second half. Although this adds quite a bit of plot and story to the module, it also makes it cumbersome to run for the Dungeon Master. Also, the module places an artificial limit of 100 yards to the transposed monsters who now have the souls of the townspeople. The explanation given is rather weak, in my opinion. One of the things I can think of to make keeping track of all these townspeople is to make an index card for each of them. Unfortunately, this will require a lot of prep time for the DM. The I6 module had the Fortunes of Ravenloft card reading to determine Vampire Strahd's goal and the location of important items. Instead of using a Gypsy fortune-telling card reading, the I10 module uses a hypnosis session. The Dungeon Master should pre-generate results in case the player characters do not do a session. The hypnosis will be performed by Dr. Germain. For the session, Dr. Germain will use a mesmerist pendulum, which is a crystal that hangs on a thin chain. He can only hypnotize willing subjects. If one or more player characters participate in the mesmerist session, then the DM should give them the green cards that are supposed to be cut out from the module's gatefold cover. The players will then choose a response to give that is printed on the backside of the card. From a story perspective, it makes more sense for the alchemist and Lady Weathermaid to be hypnotized and give responses. However, the DM can still hand out the green cards to the players and have them give responses on behalf of the alchemist and Lady Virginia. The session works like a countdown. The player with card number 8 goes first and will be reading what is on the green side of the card, then chooses a response that is on the back of the card. The player with card number 7 goes next. Then the player with card number 6 goes next, and etc. The first response determines the location of the apparatus. The fifth response determines the guise of the creature, whether it be an NPC hosting the creature or it be a corporeal standalone entity. The third response determines what the goal of the creature is. The rest of the non-mentioned responses determine the locations of important items and key objects. All these responses are then recorded on the DM's Adventure Plot Tracker. The creature, who I shall also refer to as the Vampire Strahd, will have one of 4 possible objectives it would like to achieve. They are as follows: to slay his better half, to torment the alchemist's fiancé. The Vampire Strahd cannot tolerate seeing his counterpart find the happiness that has long been denied him. To feast on new lands. Freed from the starving lands of Barovia, which is the setting where the Ravenloft module takes place, the vampire Strahd is maddened by the presence of all the fresh blood available in this new land. He sees the opportunity to sate his gnawing thirst and to build new legions of the night to serve him. To regain true life, the creature wants to use the apparatus's transpossession function and trade places with his living half, the alchemist Strahd. The Rod of Restanon is a short crystal rod that is needed to properly operate the apparatus. Without it, the apparatus cannot perform its splitting and merging of souls functions. Basically, the Rod of Restanon is a MacGuffin plot device. The Soul Searcher medallion enables the bearer to see the soul of a creature to discover its true nature. A converted townsperson will appear as the monster inhabiting it. A converted monster will appear as the townsperson inhabiting it. The Ring of Reversion is able to restore the rightful spirit back to its body, if it still exists. It is also able to revert any shape changer, such as a doppelganger, to its original form. The Alchemist's Diary is basically an exposition dump/device. It is the private notes of the alchemist Strahd. It details his experiments, but it is missing some vital entries. The missing entries of the alchemist's diary details out what happened when the alchemist Strahd used the apparatus. I do not like to be critical, but how can the alchemist have written these entries if he has fled in terror after using the apparatus and now has amnesia? This is an example of a plot hole this module has, and it has quite a few of them. The next page of the missing entries will vary and depends on the creature's goal. I will now mention the possible locations where the creature moved the apparatus to. It may be found within the mausoleum of the Weathermay family. Ever since Lord Weathermay's wife passed away a decade ago, the mausoleum has not been maintained. As FYI, when the player characters first enter the narthex, aka the entryway of the mausoleum, they will suffer a delirium episode. The narthex is labeled as T3 on the bottom of the map. The apparatus may be in one of the 3 circled chambers displayed on the screen. In addition, a fair number of undead lair within the mausoleum. The apparatus may be found within Heather House. It may be found on the ground level in the once grand ballroom. Lord Weathermay has not entertained guests ever since his wife passed away. Or the apparatus may be found on the upper floor in the east wing. This chamber was the room of Lord Byron's deceased wife. Or it may be found in the basement in the Cripes chamber. If the creature Strahd is a standalone corporeal entity, then his lair will also be here. In addition, the chamber also has 20 Strahd zombies and another vampire. Next, I will mention the possible locations where important items can be found. One such place is the ruined church of Mordentshire. Another such place is in Lady Virginia's chamber on the upper floor in Heather House. Another place where important items can be found is the house on Gryphon Hill. The possible locations where important items can be found within Gryphon Hill Manor include the fireplace within the dining hall of the manor, the private study, the abandoned lab, and the tower chapel. I will now briefly discuss some notable areas in and around Mordentshire, starting with the ruined church. During a terrible storm some nights ago, the church was burned to the ground. If not converted, Father Joshua Talbot will be found ranting about the evil of the Gryphon Hill house. Layering to the north of the church in the woods are 4 wights who could be transposed townspeople. Oh boy. If transposed, other than an artificial 100-yard limit, what is to keep them from walking into town and trying to communicate with their loved ones? This module does not consider such an event occurring, which I would add as a dungeon master. Dr. Germain can usually be found at the Sawbridge Sanitarium. Upon first entering the sanitarium grounds, the player characters will suffer a delirium episode. All these episodes concern the doctor, and he will suggest that they commit themselves into this insane asylum for an indefinite amount of time. Residing in the middle of the Weathermay Mausoleum is Ossaline the Lich. Ossaline is Vampire Strahd's most powerful and least trusted ally. The Lich wants a human body and is eager for the transpossession to take place. He will not aid the Vampire Strahd in the final encounter. Ossaline will later become a Dark Lord and be featured in the Ravenloft campaign setting. The house on Gryphon Hill has an ill reputation, a reputation that temporarily eased when the likable alchemist Strahd bought it and moved in there. Throughout the module, there are many references to the past evil reputation the house has. Some references include gossip by the townspeople, folklore history books found in the bookshop, and others. Centuries ago, the original lord of the house went mad and murdered his family. The house has been haunted ever since. Now a number of undead lair in the house. Before being moved by the creature, the apparatus was in chamber numbered 46G, which is called the Abandoned Lab. In room 43E are some of the alchemist's notes stating his desire to rid himself of his evil half. If enough time has passed, many of the transposed townspeople in their new monster bodies will probably be here. The Ring of Reversion will release the transposed townsperson, but will also drive the evil spirit back into its monster body. Hence, the player characters will have a fight on their hands. The epilogue of the module is an encounter. However, before this encounter can occur, certain conditions need to be met. They are: 1. The player characters know the location of the apparatus. 2. The player characters or the creature Strahd has the Rod of Restinon. And 3. The alchemist Strahd must be accompanying them. To succeed, the alchemist and the NPC hosting the creature must be placed into the apparatus. The module does not state so, but I assume if the alchemist is hosting the creature, then only the alchemist needs to be placed in the apparatus. The apparatus will work once the alchemist, the NPC host, and the rod are brought together. In the meantime, a fierce and severe storm starts to rage outside. The apparatus will sever the link between the straws, and, if applicable, the creature will be separated from its host. With the link severed, Vampire Strahd is now a true corporeal and separate entity, which is what he always wanted. The Vampire Strahd will then flee into the raging storm. The alchemist jumps into the storm and pursues the Vampire Strahd. If the player characters also pursue, they will witness the two Strahds battling each other. At the brink of a cliff, they will then see both Strahds toppling over the edge. After this, the apparatus will explode. The souls of the transposed townspeople will be restored to their proper bodies. Roll credits. Displayed are the credits found within the module itself. Only as an option, the module suggests running the I6 and I10 modules simultaneously. Whenever the player characters suffer a delirium episode, then switch the gameplay from the I10 to the I6 module, and continue to switch back and forth between the two modules. This module has too many things to keep track of, including weather. It pains me to say this, but I would not recommend the Dungeon Master to run this module. The authors went to great length and effort to craft a well-written plot, story, and adventure into this module. Unfortunately, I found some plot holes, and most Dungeon Masters will find this module too complicated and difficult to run, especially with players who are the hack and slash types and are not into solving mysteries, playing nice, and/or are not into role-playing. I am not saying it is a bad module, but what I am saying is that it is too complicated for most Dungeon Masters to run. Decades ago, when I ran this, there was too many things to keep track of, and I frequently had to refer to many papers, which caused the D&D session to drag out at too slow of a pace. Thank you for watching. Hope this video has been informative and entertaining. I have created a playlist of D&D modules and adventures composed of videos from various YouTube channels. I notice some gaps in it. In the foreseeable future, to fill in some of those gaps, I plan on reviewing those missing D&D modules. Till next time, this is RPGmodsFan saying cheers, have a good day, and goodbye.
Pacing back and forth. Oh, I don't understand why you're standing right here. All your shots have scored. No, scratching at the scars you left on my skin. We fight and we fall and we rise through it all till we find what we want. Then we lose it all again. Your touch on my skin, pull me close, take me in. Just me, just you, lost in the moment. Lost in the moment. Nowhere left to run. Oh, trying to bide our time. We know it's all done. Take a bow, you win. hands here tight, it keeps pulling me in. We fight and we fall, can we rise through it all till we find what we want, and we lose it all again. Your touch on my skin, pull me close, take me in. Just me, just you, lost in the moment. Lost in the moment. Lost in the moment. Though I've tried, I just keep falling all over again. And our hands are tight, can't fight it. Can we go through this again?